No.
Cup of tea. Who doesn't like a cup of tea? Who likes coffee? Who likes tea? Who doesn't like either? Who doesn't like coffee? Oh my goodness. Can't survive without coffee. My name's Tim. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. Thanks for asking. I'm well.
Thank you, Karen. Very nice. I'm from a business called Beat the Reset. Has anybody heard of it or heard of me or... yeah, one person. Very nice. I've got a fan club. I brought my own fans. Oh, 2 people. Great. Fantastic. I'm a pretty light-hearted kind of guy. So if you've got something you want to ask and it's a burning question, just shout it out. Are we okay to do that? Can we shout out stuff? Or is there a more formal approach?
Well,
Play it later. Because we're going to have questions as I go into this. Now, we got a microphone?
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So, do I need a microphone? Oh, the questions.
Got one on, and it's working just fine.
They call these microphones in Melbourne, where I'm from. I'm half an hour in front of you all, so don't be surprised.
It doesn't sound like
So, first of all, my business is online predominantly, but I'm also a public speaker, and I've been travelling around doing many shows and talking about, believe it or not, what's coming in the global monetary systems. Who believes that we're in for a fabulously amazing transition? Isn't it going to be wonderful? Cash is just about gone, and I have something that Wally gave me over here. I thought it was pretty fitting. It said, "Cash is king." Look at that. Who believes that? We can't hold it too high. Well, what's the rules? Oh, Jesus, everything's dangerous. South Australia, everything's going to kill you in South Australia. But anyway, there you go. So, I do enormous amounts of research, historically, into monetary systems. Am I a finance guy? No. I know nothing about finance. I'm a monetary system guy. What's the difference? Does anybody know? Okay, I'll tell you. One is real. You know where I'm going with this. And the other isn't. One of them will make you very wealthy and your families, and the other will destroy you. Who's figured that out by now? Yeah. We have a currency that's largely printed by a central bank that has a printing machine, which is as good as a bubble jet printer. And they've got a license to print money. Yeah, it doesn't really bode well for wealth. So let's just, before I jump into this, tonight I'm really here to talk to you about a talk that I'm going to do. So I'm not going to do my talk tonight, but what I thought I'd do is give you a bit of a teaser. So my question is, would you like to talk about the past? Would you like to talk about the present? Or would you like to talk about the future? What are you most interested in? The future.
Yes.
Is it a yes? Unanimous yes?
Yes.
A painful, I don't want to? Okay. So, first of all, I'm an author of 2 books. I'm just going to quickly give myself a plug and then we're going to get straight into it. I've got these 2 books for sale tonight. I didn't come here to sell books though. I'm an educator. These are here to help you. One of them's called, my first one was called, you ready for this? Things You Were Never Told About Money. And it literally is things you were never told about money. It's the biggest eye-opener you will ever have, period. It will turn you from a consumer into an investor in a heartbeat. Simple. My kids call it the pamphlet because it's only 90 pages. It was a bestseller on Amazon and it's sold all around the world. My other book has just been released called The Great Asset Shift. Who's heard of The Great Taking? Because I have a feeling David Rogers might have read this before he actually wrote his own book. So The Great Taking is a very important addition to what's coming. And I'm going to explain very briefly. Now, here's the thing. I don't have time tonight to do my whole talk. It's extensive, it's interesting, it's going to reveal things that you've never heard of before. But you'd have to come along to my talk on March 14 to hear the rest of it. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a teaser. Is that okay? Not going to give you the whole thing, it's like the preview. This particular book here, The Great Asset Shift, talks about what happened to your ancestors. How they successfully lost everything. Because when you were born, you did not inherit an estate. Have you noticed that? When you were born, you inherited a 4-letter word beginning with D and ending in T. Does anybody know what that is? Debt. Everybody born into... What was it? What was it? Doubt. Doubt, no, that's another way. Lots of funny people here in Adelaide, aren't there? They're also comedians. So, you are born into debt. Who really runs this planet is the question. We've all got these ideas about who runs this planet. Who do we think runs this planet? You want to have a guess?
The Vatican.
The Rothschilds, the Vatican, it's them. Who? Come on, give us some. Come on, shout them out. Who are your favourites?
Bank of International Settlements.
I love it, I love it. It was him. Well, I mean, it would come as no great surprise. There are 3 components to the global system. 3, not 1. Somebody has to fund it, somebody has to control it, and somebody has to build it. Who funds it?
We do.
Shout it out loud. But what do? Central bankers. Who's heard of central banks? Who's never heard of central banks? Put your hand up if you've never heard of central banks. Not commercial banks. Central banks. They fund everything. Fair point? Somebody shouted out Bank for International Settlements. Probably the most powerful of the central banking system. Who said Bank for International? Who shouted that out? Bank for International Settlements. Clever. Smart. That's where you start. With the people that do the funding. Because if they stopped funding this stuff, it would all end tomorrow. But as you rightly said, the central bankers are full of pretty much, I guess, boys who grew up to be men that never quite became men, that never got hugged enough by their dads, but they have a lot of currency and wealth, and they're going to use it. But what are they going to use it for? So they get together with their globalist buddies. Who are the globalists? Who is the overarching globalist organisation? What's their name? It's got 2 letters. Thank you. The United Nations. And underneath the United Nations are all your favourites. International Organisation for Standardisation, World Health Organisation. What's the name? Is that German guy? Who does he vote for? Oh, that wasn't Schultz, that was Klaus Schwab. That was my worst Klaus Schwab ever. You'll know nothing. World Economic Forum, all of these organisations are part of globalists. They control everything, including lower level governments as well, federated governments. Now we get down to people that have to build it. So who might be building their stuff? Who might be some of the corporations? You guys can name, we heard them already. Commonwealth of Australia. Corporations. Corporations build it, globalists control it, central bankers fund it. Wars funded by who? Globalists? No. Who fund wars? Corporations? No. Central bankers. You mentioned Rothschilds, they're very, very well entrenched. They're not the only family. Carnegie's, DuPont's, Rockefellers. They're all over the world. And they have central banks. And they pretty much run the show. Because if they stopped paying for stuff, everyone would go home. That would be the end of it, actually. That's how this ends. But how do you stop the central bank system from doing what they were about to do next? Would you like to know what they're about to do next?
Yes.
Shout it out. Who said that? Digital currencies. That's one thing. What's something else they might be about to do?
Wars.
Yes. Wars, always, yes. They're always very handy. Take, how much? What are they going to take? Some things. In 1933, let me tell you a story very quickly. There was a guy called Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Who's ever heard of him before? Not Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt. The longest serving president in United States history. How many terms did he serve? 3. How many presidents in US history have served 3 terms? 1. Why is that? They're only allowed to serve 2 terms after the 25th Amendment was amended in 1952. It just so happens that Franklin D. Roosevelt saw in the last Great Reset. If you want to know what a reset looks like, go back to March 6, 1933. Does anybody know what happened on that day?
They confiscated all the gold held in private hands.
Oh, you're shining lights in everybody's faces.
Sorry.
You will tell us everything. We're going to sticky tape your eyelids open and swing a little light in front of you. Okay. So the answer to the question is this, just so you understand what your government is going to do to you. And I don't say this because I'm trying to make you afraid. I say this because we have a solution at BTA.
Not our government.
Shout it out.
They're not our government.
Okay. Franklin D. Roosevelt came to power March 4, 1933. What happened just before that was literally a criminal act.
The stock market collapsed.
The New York Stock Exchange collapsed by 90% between the year 1929 and 1932. By the end of 1933, 10,000 commercial banks collapsed. 9 million consumer accounts were wiped from the record. Franklin D. Roosevelt had just come to power, taken over from which US President? Herbert Hoover. And in March 6, 1933, it had taken the Federal Reserve, the most dystopian privately owned central bank in US history, actually global history, 20 years to destroy the currency from 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was passed just 2 days before Christmas in December 23rd. It took 20 years to destroy the currency. Do you know why they destroyed the currency? Because, of course, it was worthless all along. It had no value. It's only worth, and I've got one here, I'm actually holding a couple here. I've got the original notes from that period. There's 2 of them here, and when you come over to the table at the back, I'll show you. The Federal Reserve destroyed the currency. And in let's say in the 1920s, remember the boom of the 1920s? What was that called? The roar. Do you know what that was? That was the great credit boom of the 1920s, where the commercial banking system discovered that by lending funds that they don't have to people under a 10% fractional reserve system, you can return a lot of funds to your investors. People will borrow from you, and when people borrow, they are in debt. Now, in the Roaring '20s, you know, have you ever seen pictures of the Roaring '20s? Who've got like beautiful cars, weird wigs, cigarettes that are this long? You know that's it. The Charleston. It was an incredible time. But then something happened, and it all ended. Everybody borrowed. There was one problem. You know what it is? They couldn't afford to pay it back. Oh no, Houston, we have a very big problem. No one really had any funds at all. And the commercial banks had got big and fat on lending you absolutely nothing under 10% fractional reserve rights. And then, of course, came the crash of Wall Street, 29. It took 3 years to collapse the New York stock market to 90% of its 1924 value. In 1933, March 4, fortunately, Franklin Roosevelt came to power, and by 2 days after he came to office on March 6, he did the most unthinkable thing a US president has ever done. What did he do on March 6 at the strike of midnight? No.
The New Deal.
Yes, but I need something more specific. He closed down the banks. The end. That was the end of the US people on that day. The middle class was wiped out. Strike at midnight. You ask how quickly this next reset's going to happen. March 6:33. You went to bed on March 5, you woke up on March 6. Can I tell you what happened on March 6th? When the banks were meant to reopen, people went to the banks. What did they find? They couldn't get into the banks. Then what happened? They were cool with that, right? Will you be cool with that? What do you think you would do? Smash the windows? Start crying? Seriously, what do you think you would do? You've got a family. You've got children. What are you going to do? Panic. Chaos. The US government had a counter to this. It's called the administration. US went into a state of emergency. We all know what happens in state of emergency, right? Overriding legislation on the fly, the New Deal, creation of the Glass-Steagall Act, the Banking Act of 1933, creation of the Securities Exchange Commission, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the confiscation of physical gold, because it was the only thing that people had that had any value. The US government said that if you give us the gold, we'll use the gold to restabilise the economy. Did they do that? No. They chucked it into the vaults so that you couldn't have it. And then, in 1934, in the January, under the Gold Reserve Act, Franklin D. Roosevelt appears again, the saviour of the US economy. Just 7 months after they confiscated your gold, he then declared, now it is illegal for you to trade gold. Then, in the same sentence, he debased the US dollar by 59%. You were wiped out for the next 40 years. Until the 1st of the 1st, 1975, when the then non-elected President Gerald Ford rescinded the Gold Reserve Act on the 1st of the 1st, 1975. That was 40 years where you could not trade gold. But hang on a minute, Mr. Guy in the Hat. I thought the Americans, the United States, went onto a gold standard in 1944. Yes, the elites could trade gold, but you couldn't trade gold. Don't you find that a little bit interesting? Oh, you could own it up to 5 ounces. What would happen if you tried to trade it? Do you know what you would be charged with? Begins with T. Terrorism. Trading Secrets of the Enemy Act of 1917. Punishable by death. It didn't actually happen. No one was punished by death, but there was a lot of people jailed in the interests of course, entertaining. I tell you that story because I can tell you that in enormous detail, but I'm going to stop that story right there because I'm now going to jump forward. I'm going to jump forward to a year called 2024. What you don't realise is the reset has already happened. The reset has already happened. You didn't know that. No one told you that, but I'm going to tell you that. So, in 1994, there were 2 guys who were tasked with modifying something called the Uniform Commercial Code, which there are 180 countries around the world that are signatories. The Uniform Commercial Code in the United States is pretty much a doctrine that is both a uniform and a code and tells you how to trade effectively. Many countries, including Australia, have adopted UCC. Who's heard of Uniform Commercial Code? Now I'm going to refer to Articles 8 and 9, but predominantly Article 9. This is back to 1933. On April 5th, 1933, under Executive Order 6102, gold was confiscated. What is about to be confiscated is no longer gold. They will not confiscate your gold. Why, Mr. Go in the Hat? Because no one owns it. They'll not come for your silver. Why, Mr. Go in the Hat? Because no one owns it. Guess what they're coming for? Everything. Everything.
Shares in real estate.
And they've already done it. And you don't know. And the reason you don't know is because Uniform Commercial Code was updated in 1994. Now, the last time I looked, that was around about 30 years ago. And what that update gave the central bankers was something called a new secured creditor right. They are now something called entitled secured creditors and custodians of anything that has been collateralised. What's collateralised, Mr. Go in the Hat? That's where somebody takes something you own and puts it up as a bet against something else. I want to bet on the horse that's going to win the Melbourne Cup, but I don't have anything. How about you just put your house up? So if you don't win, you're going to lose your house. That's called collateralisation. So who would do something like that? Who's collateralised? Yes?
We the people have been collateralised through our birth certificates, have we not?
Okay, let's just keep it on the facts here. These things, some things will serve you and some things will not. What you need to understand is it doesn't matter what you think. Are you aware of that? It doesn't matter what you think. There is no court that's going to attempt to prosecute what's about to happen here. This is at the highest possible level because it comes straight from the central bankers. So, since this has already happened, what it means is, if you go and do something like try to buy real estate, then what it means is you are buying an asset, right? Or wrong? What are you buying?
You're buying a right to of use and possession.
It's called a fee simple lease, correct. You don't own it. You can't own it. You are an unsecured creditor of a contract, of an asset that has been collateralised, that's not an asset, it's actually termed a liability because you don't own it and you can't own it. Actually, just while I'm on it, who can own stuff in this country, by the way?
Wayne.
Yes, I'll accept that answer. Anybody else?
Who what?
Shout out. Indigenous and First Nations. They do not hold fee simple title on anything. What do they hold?
Possession.
Allodial title. Who said that? Very clever. You cannot repossess allodial title. Hence the voice.
I just became an Aboriginal.
We all identify as Indigenous people right now, right? So, the reason this has already happened is for two reasons. I'm going to give you two of them, without even getting to central bank digital currencies. UCC Article 9 is very real. It's already been implemented. At the end of 2023, there was a trilateral test involving three very powerful nations. It took 7 years to complete, and it ended at the end of 2023. And what it was the United States, the EU, and Great Britain wanted to know how quickly they could take everything from you in a heartbeat. That's all they were trying to figure out. So they worked together with their central bank partners and their globalist buddies and their corporations, and they got the answer. And they figured it out. At the end of 2023, these are the organisations, so you know, that were involved in that test, that 7-year trial, to figure out how to take everything. Let's go through them. Securities Exchange Commission, fairly big fish. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, European Central Bank, Bank of England, the US Treasury, the United States Federal Reserve. All the biggest players in the game. They have figured it out and they are ready to go. We are sitting at yellow light. They are going to take everything that's collateralised. The question I get is, what is collateralised and what isn't? It's a good question. If I own my title, do I really own my title? But here's something I can tell you. If you're in mortgage phase, where's your title? Someone tell me where your title is. No. I'm not accepting the bank. The question is, what are you buying? And who are you buying it from? And what do you own? The answer to that question is a very sad answer. The title doesn't exist because it's been digitised. It was moved a while ago to a little corporation called the DTC, $87 trillion pooled fund of collateralised securitized assets. It's not even in Australia. It's offshore, in the US. Low capitalisation pretty much has done it already. They have your land title, if you want to know where it is. So when you go and ask your office, or you go to your land titles office, or you go to the commercial bank and you say, can I have my title? What are they going to tell you? The best you're going to get is a PDF file. Yeah? if you're lucky. I spoke to some gentleman, I think James here somewhere said he has a deed. Is that correct? Where's James? He's got the deed. That's a very rare thing to have. Who else has got the deed to their house? Deeds. Who hasn't? Who's in mortgage phase right now? In other words, are you paying off a mortgage right now? Who's paying off a mortgage? No one. One guy. So what are the rest of you doing? Who's renting? My hat's off to all the renters. Clever move. Go renters. Who knew, right? They can't take anything from you when you rent. It's impossible, because you don't own anything. That's the good news. So, your assets are pooled. Right now, they are sitting in a giant pool. You don't have it anymore. And that's the facts. And here's how it ends. Because I don't want to give it all away, because I've got an incredible end game to this. The chapter that is very important for you to know, I'm not going to tell you about tonight. Because there is something that has been built that you know nothing about. I'm one of probably 3 commentators on the earth to talk about it. It's very real. You can go and research it once I tell you, but I'm not going to tell you about it tonight. You're going to have to come and hear my talk on next Thursday. But what I am going to tell you is everything that comes before the end game. And it goes like this. We are sitting at yellow light. You are about to lose pretty much everything you've ever owned. That is within the system. So I'm giving you all the bad news. I haven't given you the good news yet. So everything that's within the system will go with the system. Now who's going to start that? How is this all going to end? How do we think this is going to end? How are we going to go from yellow light to green light so that the central bankers can just get this thing done? And what is their plan? What do they plan to do with all your things? What are they going to do with it?
Control us.
I'd like to be thinking.
Bring them back to us.
How? One word. Beginning with T. No. No. No.
Tokenize.
Thank you. Tokenization. Hello, tokenization. Who's ever heard of that? Who hasn't? Put your hands up if you haven't. You're the guys, you really need to hear what I have to tell you about tokenization. Your assets, so you understand how this works, are going to be taken from you. And they're going to be put in a giant pool called the DTC, because I've already spoken about that. It's already there, it's already happened, so don't worry, don't panic, it's all gone. What they're going to do from here is they're going to tokenize them. What is that, Mr. Guy in the Hat? Well, I'll give you an example. It's like, say for example, you want to buy this book. You can't. Why? Because in the future, you won't be owning anything. There's this guy, he's like a bald guy, says stuff like, you won't own anything. Heard of that guy before? What's his name? You know he was your best friend. He gave you the biggest heads up that anybody has ever given you. He told you to get out of the system, and I'm telling you, he is right. This book can't be owned in the future. What it can be done, though, is it can be tokenized. And what that means is somebody's going to take this book, and they're going to split it into X amount of parts. I hate algebra, so I'm going to say 10 parts. And they're going to sell 10 parts of this book to 10 investors. This is your house. This is how it's going to work. So now, there is not one owner. There are 10 owners. And they're all investors. Not one of them can own it, but they can all have a share in it. And all they're interested in is making a dividend, making some kind of profit. No one has a title. So where is the title? They don't exist anymore. The custodians have the titles. The central bankers, JP Morgan, the biggest of the commercial banks. What's going to happen to Australian banks, Mr. Guy in the Hat? Small commercial banks will collapse. They are being collapsed by design. I spoke about this 2 years ago. If you don't believe me, if you're from a regional area, get used to no banks. You'll now got an Australia Post. Thanks very much, government. All your commercial banks are disappearing because they will not exist in the future. Why? Because we're moving into a central bank system. That is why it's called central bank digital currency. Are you getting where this is going? Everything is tokenized. Everything is liquid. Nothing is owned. How do you win the game like that? Mr. Guy in the Hat. I'm not going to tell you that tonight. You're going to have to come to my talk. How do we win a game like that? We know how to win that game. And at BTR, the thing that's made BTR quite successful is we have an answer, a very solid solution. And it's not just one solution, it's many solutions, and every single one of them works. But if you don't do any of it, what do you think might happen? Most people in the middle class, during resets, how many resets have there been, Mr. Guy in the Hat? I can count 6 in this book. I talk about 6 resets since 1819. 6. They didn't used to be called Great Resets. Do you know what they used to be called? The Great Panic. That was their original name. They changed that. Wonder why? And the longest of those Great Panics was a 10-year Great Panic known as the Great Depression. All the others were a year and a half. One of them was even like 6 days. Crazy. This next one is a total wipeout. The next one we're about to go through is the biggest catastrophe in modern human monetary history, because it doesn't involve the loss of gold, and it doesn't involve the loss of silver. It involves the loss of every single asset within your possession that the commercial banks can get their hands on and the governments can take. Everything that's been collateralised will go. It's a run-out sale. But believe it or not, in amongst all of that, there is a solution. But I'm not going to tell you about that tonight because you've got to come to my talk. Would you like to know the solution?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us now. Would you like to know now? Give us a clue.
And we'll start going to your talk.
I've heard this one before. It's like, checks in the mail, still love you in the morning. What was the third one? Can't say the third one.
We're not banks.
Okay. When you're on the Titanic, let's pretend that story was real. Of course it wasn't real. But if it was, sold a lot of movies though. They sold a lot of tickets for a movie, didn't they? Total nonsense, the story, by the way, if you know the real story. But anyway, let's pretend the Titanic was a real story. And there's a hole in the Titanic. What's the first thing you're going to do? Go to the bar? Do you know how many people went to the bar? They didn't believe it. You know, during COVID, people went to the bar. The rest of us were getting the hell out of Dodge. And everyone else was going to the bar going, it's pretty good, get a couple of years off work, yeah, take a few jabs, it's pretty cool. You know, and the rest of us are going, I don't think we want to do that. It's not a good, it didn't sound like a good idea. Hopefully I'm preaching to the converted here. Hopefully I'm not all jabs, because I'm going to be in a lot of trouble.
No, no.
Oh, hands up! No. Who's had a heart attack in the last month? Yeah. So, the same with the monetary system. When there's a problem, you've got to figure out how to avoid what we're about to go into. So I've been standing on the shores pointing at this tidal wave coming in, and it's coming. But we have a solution. What would be something you would do if you saw a tidal wave?
Get a boat.
Get to high ground. If you know your currency is about to collapse, if you know that it's going to be debased in favour of a digital central bank digital currency, if you know that your assets are going to be tokenised and traded on Wall Street by investors, what is something you could do to create something called an upside for yourself instead of all downside? Because what's going to happen here is the middle classes, can I tell you, in a reset, 70% average of the middle class collapses. Straight away. 70% are gone. They're wiped out. And it's the same as one. This one will be bigger than that. So 70%, if you look up your street, 7 in 10 people are going to go down in this. We're actually all going to be very badly affected, but you can protect yourself, and strangely enough, you can actually get enormous upside, but not only for you, but for your children and your grandchildren. This is not about getting rich. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Get-rich-quick scheme. There's a big difference between getting rich and there's a big difference between wealth. I'm talking about wealth here, having value. If you are rich, you have no value. If you're wealthy, you have value. And wealth is more than just monetary. What is something else you could do with wealth? Well, what's something else that could make you wealthy? Having great community. Health. That's a good one. Health's pretty important, isn't it? You can't have money, you can't have wealth if you haven't got health. So if you know the system is going to collapse, somebody said before, if you know there's a tidal wave coming, you start to run and you get to high ground. What are some of the high ground things you could do with the monetary system? Well, we already know some of the don't do's. Maybe don't buy real estate that's from a fractional reserve system that hasn't got any funds. Maybe don't do that. Maybe don't go and buy stocks, shares, equities, bonds and annuities in a derivatives market that's about $1+ quadrillion in size. That's probably not a good idea. So having enormous amounts of cash in a commercial bank, is that a good idea? Why? $1 One word, begins with R and ends in K. Risk. What is the risk? What is the risk of standing on the shoreline and waiting for that tidal wave to come in? You reckon you're going to get drowned? Yeah, pretty high. What is the risk of putting cash in a commercial bank right now? High or low? Very high. Why? I thought it was a good thing. Don't you get like 5% on your little money box, like a big money box every year? Well, surely it's good. Come on. Why?
Confiscated.
Inflation.
No, confiscation.
Confiscation. Why would you never put cash in a commercial bank on reset? 2 words. Bail in. Or bail out. Bailouts were actually outlawed at the G20 in 2015, so the commercial banks can't do that. So what's a bail-in, Mr. Guy-in-the-Hat? What's a bail-in? What happens in a bail-in? They take your money. Who's they? You know we've got a problem. Here's the problem. There are $1.2 trillion in the commercial bank deposit system. That's great, Mr. Guy-in-the-Hat. And they are insured for $80 billion. We are short by about $1.1 trillion. Thank you, Mr. Guy-in-the-Hat. APRA came out in 2018 modifying bail-in laws and said, but don't worry, we will guarantee you, government guarantee that 14 days to flatten the curve, socially distanced, sanitised, wear your face mask. They said, we guarantee up to the first $250,000 of your funds. I know I said bullshit then. I almost said that. Rubbish. How are you going to do that if you are short by orders of magnitude? Your funds are a wipeout in a reset. Oh, by the way, so is your pension funds, your 401ks, your IRAs, and your superannuation funds. Bye-bye, see you later. Because they are pegged to the ASX 200, and we are going to see when the central bank is going to green light, when they go into green light, you're going to see the collapse of the global derivatives markets. What are they, Mr. Guy-in-the-Hat? Pretty much all the stock markets are going. How are they going to do that, Mr. Guy-in-the-Hat? Well, turns out that this great big casino called the stock market happens to have a giant hand in it called the central bank hand. The day they decide to pull out their dark hand is the day these markets fall apart. And it will happen in a heartbeat. Because as I said to you, the United States, the EU and Great Britain have spent 3 years perfecting the speed at which they can do this using probably Ripple Networks XRP technology, which can move funds cross-border 2 seconds. You are gone. The second the green light goes on, your assets are now in the DTC. Can't get them. Because the DTC, in the incidence of a derivatives market failure, is tasked legally with handing over all pooled funds to the guys that really own the stock markets. The entitled secured creditors, the central bankers. Game over. So the only way you can get out of that system is to do 3 things. Actually, well, there's many things you can do to get out of the system. You can actually move to a desert island and befriend a volleyball called Wilson, and you can, shout Wilson all day and go crazy. You can get off grid. Getting off grid is not possible for most people. Just so you know. I know we all want to get off grid, we just can't go off grid. Right? Who knows anyone that's gone off grid? It's almost impossible. Okay, there's a couple of people. But it can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's pretty much nigh on impossible. There are 3 types of humans in this new reset. There's ones that go off grid. There's not many of those. There's ones that just go over the cliff and lose everything. Oh yeah, there's a whole lot of those. And then there's us. We're called the hybrid class. We are the people that know the dangers, but are accepting the task at hand. A little bit like that, Mission Impossible, should you accept the task? We know that this system is designed to destroy wealth because the central bankers only survive on debt. That's what a central bank does, it creates debt. So as long as they've got you to kind of buy their debt, then they're going to be very fat and very wealthy, and we've seen that happen time and time again. But here's the good news. On the flip side of all this, we still have a monetary system. As long as you get away from the fiat system, F-I-A-T, people think I say fiat, although it probably should be. The fiat system. What's the fiat system? That's their system. They're going to take you from physical cash to electronic, which is commercial bank, to digital. What's the problem with digital? Sounds pretty good. It does exist. Oh, it definitely exists. Who said? Somebody said over here. Control. Fully programmable currency. How good would that be? It can be fully programmed. Can you see the benefits? For the central bankers, I can see the benefits. For you, I can't see any benefits. Are you going to be able to control your currency? Hell no. It's a living nightmare. And it's a wet dream for the central bankers. By the way, they've already built their first central bank digital currency, which was built and constructed by a company called the Digital Currency Monetary Authority. All ratified by the International Monetary Fund, running on Ripple's Crypto 2 network, called a UMU Unicoin. It is the nastiest little thing you have ever seen. It is super powerful. It can be programmed a million ways to Christmas. And very soon, most of your friends will be using it. Why will they be using it, Mr. Guy in the Hat? But I thought it was dystopian. They're going to use it because after they lose everything, your saviour, your government, is going to turn up with a solution. Problem, reaction, solution. We have a solution. You lost everything, you are in debt, you have no title, we will not exonerate. However, what we have for you is, since the Australian dollar has been debased, we have a better alternative, which will be called the Universal Basic Income, also disguised as a central bank digital currency, fully available for your protection and safety. Isn't it wonderful? So that's one option. The other option is step one. Step one. Start learning how to become an investor. Are you with me? There are two types of people that go into this reset. Consumers, that's the big class. Investors, there's a little class. How do you become an investor? What do you do?
Put money into something.
Is investment about money? What do you do with your children? What do you do with your health? Do you invest in your health? Does that cost money? It does. What about your friends? Invest in your friends? Does that cost money?
Can do.
Getting married, does that cost money?
Yes. Time.
To become an investor, you need one thing. You need to change the way you think. In order to win this game, we're going tokenised. This is an investor world. Fully liquid system. The opposite of a liquid system is a static, illiquid system. That's the one we've got now. By the way, I totally agree with the central bankers. This system sucks. We have so many assets sitting around that are dormant. You drive around the suburbs, most of those assets are just sitting there dormant. We don't know who owns them, they never move, they sit there. And as Warren Buffett once said, if you never sell an asset, it doesn't have any value. If you've got a valuable collectible car in your garage, like a Model T Ford or a 1934 Ford, how much is it worth if it's sitting in your garage? Nothing. When is it worth something? Right, so the new tokenised system is a permanent, everything is on sale permanently all the time. I personally think, as an investor, it's a great system. As a consumer, it's a living nightmare. There are two people that are going to be in this game. Consumers, who want the stuff, and investors who own the stuff. You actually have a chance, when this thing goes into reset mode, is to switch the way you think in a heartbeat. But you've got to do it before we get to the reset. You've got to switch. You can't just you can't lose your property. You can't lose everything and go, okay, cool, I think I'm ready to become an investor now. Because you won't have anything to trade. You're already wiped out. So before you get to that, there's a couple of steps you have to take. The first one is you have to secure your wealth. How can we do that? What's a couple of ways we can secure it? What's one of the biggest ways? What's the main way you can secure wealth?
Foundations and trusts.
Trust. Still financial instruments. I'm thinking kind of more out of the system. Not bad, but more out of the system. Precious metals. But Mr. Gunn, aren't they like relics from a past? Yes. That's why I wrote this book. Because your ancestors, by the middle of the 19th century, had successfully been conned out of the greatest asset in history. The greatest monetary asset in history was what? No. Thank you. Never, ever was it gold. Ever have we traded gold. I have no idea where that came from. Where did that come from? Why do we believe that gold was what we traded? We aren't gold traders. The last time I looked, we're a common man. We are silver traders. Every single empire in living history traded silver. Not one of them traded gold. But somehow, in 1873, the Coinage Act of 1873, the United States banned silver. Can you imagine what that did to the people in 1873? They banned your ability to survive. And they put the US onto a quasi-gold standard in 1873. Well, the common man didn't trade gold, guys. We're silver traders. Silver is the most devalued asset in human history. There is no asset that is more devalued than silver. If you look up the per ounce price of silver today, what is it in Australia? Anybody want to have a flying swing? What's the per ounce price of silver? Let's see how many people we've got in here. Yes, 37, I'll take that. 36, 37, we hit 37, we've got 37, 37, one, I'll take that. 37, one over here, very nice. So, here's the thing. You've got an asset that's $36. The real price of silver is 393 times that. Do your math, that puts you at about 9,000 to 10,000 an ounce for silver. That is the real value for silver. So how is that, Mr. Guy in the Hat? It's because of something called the derivatives market, which I just spoke about before. They've created 393 fake versions of silver, which they trade, but there's really only 1 ounce of that in the real world. So my point is, silver will see you through. It's running at 90 to 1 against gold at the moment on the ratio. Gold, if you can afford it. People say to me, but I can't afford this stuff, Mr. Guy. Yeah, how much is the smallest silver coin? One 1/10 ounce coin. How much? $6? You can buy you go to As Good as Gold here in Adelaide, you can buy a 1/10 of an ounce silver coin for $6. Have you got $6? Now here's why I want you to do that. Not because I want you to buy gold and silver, but for 2 reasons. One, because it's the most valuable monetary asset. In fact, it's the only monetary asset. Currency is not money. It's currency. Nothing to do with money. So as long as you use this stuff, you will never have any money. In the Currency Act of 1965 in Australia, do you know how many references to money there are in the Currency Act? None. In 1976, all references in US statutes to money were removed. It doesn't exist anymore. The only monetary assets are held by the central banks. Guess what they've got in their vault? Gold. Gold in their vaults. And its sister, its big sister, silver. But you don't know that. So gold runs first, silver runs first. That's the old saying in the book. Without it, you have nothing. Just so you know that your number 1 bedrock of wealth storage system on this planet has to be in commodities. Commodities come from the ground. You have to have physical gold, and you must have physical silver with a big lean for me into silver. That's my opinion. In my opinion. I'm a silver trader. But beyond that, there's one more step you need to take. And that is you need to get into the digital space. Who's in the digital space? Who trades cryptos? Who trades digital assets? Hands up. Who does not trade digital assets? Who does not trade cryptos? Okay. Here's what I want to say to you, and again, I'll start to wind up in a second because I've probably gone way over. The reason I want you to get into silver and go and buy 1 silver coin, if you can buy 1 silver coin, one 1/10 ounce silver coin worth $6. I'm not trying to get you, I'm not doing that because I want some company out there to get a sale. I want you to do it because the moment you do it, it says to you and to me, you're an investor now. On that day where you don't go and buy a donut and a cup of coffee, and you go and buy a 1/10 ounce silver coin, you begin to understand that when you stop doing dumb stuff, like using paper to try to pay off ridiculous assets that you'll never own, and you start moving into monetary assets, on that day, you become an investor. And that's the person, not the one that tries to disappear out of the system, to talk to volleyballs, not the one that's going to go over the cliff, but the person that can become the investor is the one that's going to win this. Do you know what? And I don't even want it for you. Who do I want this for? Your children, for God's sakes. Because if you fail at this next step, you're a wipeout. if you get it right, and all you've got to do is change this. I'm not going to buy a consumable today. I'm going to buy a 1/10 ounce silver coin. This coin will survive time. As commodities have 4,800 currency resets in history, commodities have survived every one of them. Not Bitcoin, and I'll talk about digital assets some other time. And I can't give you the whole talk because this will go on too long, but I just need to finish on this. You asked me to tell you some of these solutions. Here's the first one, physical cash within your possession. Physical cash within your possession. If you don't have physical cash within your possession, go find a way to get some. Get it out of your commercial bank. Lie, cheat, beg, borrow, steal, pillage, do whatever you have to do because these people are going to take it from you if you don't. Get it out of the commercial bank. Get it into your possession. Yes, you need bank accounts. I get it. You need operating capital. You might be running a business. You might have direct debits. Use the system for you. Don't be stupid enough to put your wealth in the system. You must have your wealth within your possession and your control. Does this make some sense? Because if you leave it with these guys, you know what's going to happen. It's like going to the hospital and, I'm even frightened to even go to hospital anymore. These people are turned into, I don't know what they are. I'm expecting to kind of rip their stickers off and have like little swastikas on them. I don't know what's going on. Did I say that? So, here's the thing. The first one is physical cash. The second one is monetary commodities. Because without it, you have no money. You have no wealth. Nothing to trade. The third one is digital assets. And the reason I want to be digital assets is not because I'm a great lover of Bitcoin or anything like that. I need you to understand how to trade tokens. You need to start learning how to trade tokens. Because we're going into a world where everything is tokens. Does this make some sense to you? Because once this thing hits, it's going to happen so fast that if you don't know how to do it and you aren't ready for it, you're going to be wiped out. You need to go, okay, I lost a few. We're going to all lose in this. Not one of us is going to get through this without feeling it. But at least once this thing hits, you will understand tokenization. Because your neighbours who are freaked out and their front lobes have stopped working because they're in some kind of panic, they'll be running around bumping into walls and bumping into each other. It'll be, it'll go, this thing will be crazy. You can't learn in that state of mind. You have to learn when you're peaceful and when you're able to absorb this information. My advice to you would be the following. And again, I'll go into this in much more detail because there's a whole chapter of this missing that I haven't put in here. Very serious, deep chapter. It's the last final piece of this puzzle, but I just want to say this because I think I've given them a fair amount of teasing, value for money, without telling you everything, right? Because physical cash, commodities, gold, silver, within your possession preferably. Within your possession. No one's coming for it, guys. But couldn't they take it from us? No. The final one is digital assets. Understand what they are, understand how to trade them, understand how to buy them. And look, I run, again, this is not a plug for my business. I do consulting every day of the week to help people get into commodities, to get people out of the system, and to get people into digital assets. For me, I'm in an asset class called ISO 222. Who's heard of that? I feel like you guys must be from my channel because you've known every answer. Are you from my channel? You are, yeah. There you go. So ISO 222s. There is a chapter missing from this conversation about ISO 222s. You waving to me or? Yeah. So ISO 222s. They're a fabulous place to start because not only do you have a lot of fun doing it, you also become wealthy very quickly in a whole different sense. You have a cash producing asset and you understand tokens. That's all I want for you. Because here's what I want to say. If you don't do that, if you don't listen to anything I'm going to say here, this reset's coming. Whether you like it or not, these markets are going to go. They have to go because all markets go. All markets get reset to zero. All markets. There has never been one that hasn't. The other reason is because if you don't do what I'm going to tell you to do, and I'm not telling you to do anything, I'm advising, I'm encouraging you to look at these alternatives. I want you then, if you're not going to do that, to get in a time machine and go into the future and look into the eyes of your unborn grandchildren and tell them why you didn't do it. Because their world relies on the decisions that you make. So if you fail at this, like your ancestors failed in this book, and they failed catastrophically, not because they were stupid, but because they got hoodwinked. And I want you to explain in that time machine to your great-grandchildren why you didn't do these things. Don't be afraid. Just learn. And if you don't understand it, ask someone. Can I tell you, token trading is so simple, you'd kick yourself if you knew how easy it was. Buying precious metals, is that hard? Buying gold and silver? It's not hard. But you'll be amazed how many people go, oh, but are you telling me, Mr. Guy, I've got to go down there and I've got to buy a gold bar, I've got to take it back, I've got to put it in the box, and then I've got to take it back and I've got to give it to the... Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Because things that have value take hard work. Currency doesn't take hard work, and digits on a screen don't take hard work.
Can you explain one thing? Why currently are the central banks in the world, Bank of Israel, Japan, Russia, everyone, buying gold?
The reason they're buying gold is because the central banks have been required under the Basel III Code, which is the Bank for International Settlements Code. Who's heard of Basel III? The question from the man up the front was, what was your name again?
Yeah, I actually asked the question because...
What was your name?
Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
I asked the question because if the banks are trusting gold, why are you not pushing gold?
I am pushing gold. I'm just not pushing gold to you. You're not a central bank.
Yeah, I'm not an artist, I'm not lots of things, but why are they doing it?
Because the central bankers, first of all, they can do it. That's the first thing. Pretty much most of the gold on earth is really only in two places. One is in jewellery, and the other is in vaults. And most of those vaults are in the central banks. Vatican, if you like.
The Russians have got a very good system at the moment. They need US dollars and they don't want to trade US dollars. So they race over to Turkey and to Qatar and they take all their US dollars and they give them gold. So they go home and all they do is they dig out more gold out of the ground.
Okay, well again, so I'm going to talk about Russia and the monetary systems of...
The gold is the thing.
Yeah. Well, gold, of course, is very popular for central banks. It always has been. I mean, I could talk about the vaulting and history of gold all night. You're 100% correct. But we're a common man. We don't trade gold. We're silver traders. There is no reference to gold trading in history. None. And it's... Say it out loud. It's because it's cheaper. It's used in every area of industry. It always has been. It's easily tradable. It's instantly recognised. It's totally portable. It survives resets. But a great question, because the central banks are doing it because they were required to do it by the Bank for International Settlements under the Basel III Code to create something called solvency. They are ready to go into solvency wind down. Before they go into solvency wind down, they were ordered by the Bank for International Settlements, the most powerful central bank on the globe, to have full solvency, which means that they will survive this reset with the assets that back them. Gold is a tier 1 asset. That's why they've got it. Not silver. We trade silver. Yeah.
And you tell me, there's something that confuses me. We need cash for everyday living. By investing in silver, how is that going to do that? Again, if they turn around and throw all the cash out of the banks, and they do away with cash, what are you going to do with the cash that you've got in hand? You can't get everyday living.
Okay, so great question. Very good question. The question is, so if you're holding silver and you've used all your cash to buy silver, what are you meant to do with silver? Is what I'm hearing is the question. Is that the question?
You need something.
You need something to trade. What are you going to trade? What do you use? When you go to the supermarket, what do you use?
Cash.
Do you use money or do you use currency?
Currency.
Right. We don't use money. We use currency. That's what the Currency Act of 65 is for. We use money to store wealth. That's different. I'm not talking about using silver bars to buy loaves of bread, guys. You are never going to do that. Ever. That's not going to happen.
So when you could start.
You could argue that silver could be barter traded, but it won't even be that either. Gold and silver are your storage mechanism. They are a wealth storage system. Is currency a wealth storage system? No. Currency is used under the Currency Act of 65 as a legal tender trade. By the way, does Woolworths have to take your currency? If you go in with physical cash, do they have to take it? Why have people not in their head? Do they have to take your cash if it's legal tender? No. No, they don't. So it doesn't matter. Cash is irrelevant in this argument. You're talking about buying legal tender trade. What is it that overrides a legal tender trade? If you go into a supermarket and they say to you, sorry, we will not accept cash, have they got a legal right to do that? Why? It's the terms and conditions of trade. It's called a contract. Yeah. So you need a contract to trade with somebody. No one's going to accept your silver bars, sir. They may not even accept your cash. One thing I can promise you is this. Cash will die. That is going to happen. Very soon it will be digits on a screen. Yeah, that's going to happen. And on that day you're going to understand why Todd is getting silver. Because silver and gold store wealth over time. The definition of money is a storage of wealth over time. That is why fine art and collectibles are really cool, because they store wealth over time.
What about investing in gold share, like gold mining companies and silver mining companies?
Yes. Yes.
Are you into Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah, well...
Because he's supposed to own silver mines.
Yes, I'm not a great Robert Kiyosaki fan, but yes, I know a lot about Robert Kiyosaki, yes. So the question was, what about gold and silver stocks? Share stocks. Well, I mean, I work for a gold company. We do gold and silver stocks as well. But you've got to know what to buy. It's a little bit like the crypto market. Like, why don't you just buy cryptos? How many cryptos are there? Thousands. Can you get it wrong in cryptos? Oh, yeah. Can you get it wrong in gold shares? Yes, you can. And silver shares. You're talking about a derivatives market. You can buy gold shares. If you wanted to buy gold shares, I'll tell you, I'll come to me and I'll talk about gold shares. But you've got to know what to buy. But again, when you're investing, I want you to learn the following words. Risk, diversification. There they are. Assess the risk. What is the risk of buying gold shares, Mr. Guyhead? What is the risk of buying physical gold against gold shares? Well, they're different. One will give you a dividend, the other is a long-term wealth storage system. Depends what you want. What do you want? Personally, what I want for people in this room is to have wealth and understand how to be an investor. You can't have wealth in fiat currency. You can't have wealth using cash. If you keep going to the shop with your cash going, I'm wealthy, that will be the end of you. Because you have nothing.
What would you say to somebody holding substantial amounts of gold in an offshore depository?
Well, that's a nice problem to have.
Yes, not mine.
Where is this depository?
The one that I'm thinking of would be Singapore.
Yeah. Gold is an international commodity. I mean, all commodities are traded in US dollars. So holding commodities in any form, in any physical, are we talking physical or pooled? If it's pooled, I wouldn't trust it with a barge pole. If it's physical,
I'm presuming it would be physical, supposedly.
Okay.
Elsewhere.
There's a very big distinction between what we call pooled or allocated and unallocated. So for me to answer that question, I would say if it's allocated, incredibly powerful position to be in, provided you are able to liquidate it when you need it. But if it's unallocated, which means it doesn't exist, no. ETFs, pool, derivative, no. So the question, and again, I'm trying to readdress this other question up the back about gold and silver to buy bread and milk. No, guys. That's a consumer mentality. We need to stop doing that. Gold and silver is your wealth storage system. What I want you to imagine is you have a bank account, yeah? And you take all your funds out your bank account. You're not actually going to do this, but this is just a story. Take your funds out your bank account and you store it in either physical cash within your possession, yes, because you need to have cash flow. The number one failure of most investors is they forget about cash flow. And number two is you need something that stores wealth over. So the other one, the third one in that is of course digital assets. Very volatile, lots of fun, a little scary, graphs, a bit of this, a bit of that, some learning. Who wants to learn? Who really wants to learn? Who's had enough of learning? Yeah. Who just wants to give up? And here's what I want to say to you people, if you ever feel like giving up, I want you to remember that story about the time machine. get in that time machine and go and look into the eyes of your grandchildren and tell them why. Couldn't be bothered, didn't want to know, too hard, couldn't get internet connection. Yeah, go.
I believe you haven't actually answered Ron's question. He's worried about what is he actually going to use to buy?
I've already answered that question.
So,
Fiat currency. Fiat currency. Fiat currency.
What, including the CBDC?
Fiat currency. You will never trade. I'm going to say this again. You are not trading commodities for bread and milk. If that happens, I have no idea what's happened to the planet. That's never going to happen. The answer to your question, you will trade a fiat currency. That's what you buy bread and milk with. You buy bread and milk with whatever the contract, we were speaking about this, is between you and the retailer. If the retailer says, I only accept coconuts, then you're going to trade coconuts. That's how this works, regardless of whatever your currency act says. The answer to your question, sir, is you will trade fiat currency. Do not confuse currency with wealth storage systems. They're not the same. Here's what I want to tell you. Just imagine, maybe I can do it this way. I use my hands because I haven't got any gold or silver. Here's a silver bar. Across the reset, this silver bar is going to do this. It's going to stay right here. Its wealth is going to store your wealth over time. You see how it's just going to stay the same? Here's what's going to happen to the fiat currency. Can you see what's happening? Do you understand now, the visual? Just so for those people that are trying to... Does this make sense to people? This is called currency debasement. This is what's happening to your Australian dollar. But people who invest in this stuff, it isn't liquid yet. It's just a storage system. At some point, yeah, you're going to liquidate this. What do I mean by liquidate, by the way? Cash it in. We're going to cash it in. But what are you going to cash it in for? I wonder what we're going to cash it in for. Who would like to know what you're going to cash that in for? Because you ain't going to go and buy bread and milk with it. I can tell you right now.
Social credits.
Silver coins.
You are going to cash it in hopefully anything but central bank digital currency, which is exactly why I need you to become investors in the private digital space sooner rather than later, because the gold and silver bullion companies are already converting commodities to private digital assets to keep you away from central bank.
I'm just curious as to the tokenisation. We get that the masters of control, we get that they're doing this for one reason, to control the population, but why are they turning anything that's been commoditised into tokens? Is that going to make it easier for them to control? Is that going to make it easier for them to manage the new system? Do you know why they're choosing to go down that way?
Commodities, you're saying, into tokens?
Commercialised. So you're saying everything has been commercialised?
Assets, collateralised assets.
Yeah.
Are they going to move the tokens? Why? Simple. For one reason alone. And that's to create something called mass liquidity within the market. What they want is a market that is on sale all the time. I just want to go back to the example I gave earlier about the house that's... You've all driven down a suburb where one house in that suburb never sells. It's been there forever. It's completely illiquid. It has no value. It sits there, it is a lump. It doesn't do anything. Someone probably owns it. Maybe someone doesn't. We don't know. Could be a deceased estate. Completely illiquid. In a tokenised world, everything is liquid. Everything is tradable. Everything. And that is not a bad thing, in my opinion. It's scary, but it's actually not a bad thing. Yeah.
You haven't told one of these people here how, without cash, how they're going to survive from day to day. That is simple.
We can do this again if you like. Okay, I'm going to do this again for you, sir.
What you're turning around and doing the same to invest in silver, how is that investment in silver going to support the people and their families when the cash is gone and they're controlled by the government?
Well, we're going to try this a third time. Okay. I'm going to answer this for the third time. Once upon a time, sir, we didn't have physical cash. We never had this. This was introduced to you in 1861 in the American Civil War. I've got them, they're right here. Your ancestors, sir, used to trade silver. That's what they traded. If they were standing right here now and you were asking them about paper, they would have no idea what you're talking about. And that's your ancestors. There's a very, very big distinction. You're asking me about physical cash. What are we going to do beyond physical cash? What you've got fixated on here is the fact that you think that cash is somehow... well, let me ask you a question. Is digits on a screen in a commercial bank, is that the same as cash? Can it be traded in a similar way to cash?
Yes.
Can you purchase stuff with it?
Yes.
Right, but it's not cash. It's digits on a screen. It's just a representation, a derivative of something, which is exactly what cash is. Cash is not real. It is completely fake. The Australian dollar is backed by what, guys? Nothing.
Confidence.
Is there any fiat currency on the planet that is backed by anything?
No.
So why do you use it? Can it store value over time? No. Is it backed by anything? No. Are digits on a screen the same as physical cash? Largely, well, kind of, because they're in a digital form or in an electronic form. So your question about cash could be, well, what if I have a piece of plastic? I mean, could I tap my plastic and buy a loaf of bread? Could I? I don't need cash for that. Yeah.
My forefathers and the very early settlers in this country didn't invest in silver. They were farmers, engineers, and blacksmiths. They had to survive, and they survived by trading within one another.
They did. The oldest form of trade on the planet is barter
That's
trade,
right.
yes.
But the way that we're forced now, we can't trade with the supermarkets.
Correct.
We can't trade with the health things.
Correct.
So how are people going to survive by storing the silver when they need these day-to-day things? Survival.
Well, we'll go through this for another 4 rounds, okay? We're going to do this around. Okay, can somebody help here because we're not getting the message across here. Silver is a wealth preservation system. If you try to park your wealth in fiat currency, which is what you're talking about, you will have nothing, and I will promise you that.
And be happy.
I was just wondering, how does Brooks fit into this? And have you heard anything about Japan recently?
See, these are the things. You're really pushing me here because I didn't want to speak about so much of this stuff. Okay, BRICS fits into this in a major way. Yes. Yes, the BRICS question. She just, sorry, missing something?
Same question.
No, the BRICS question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
How
heard.
does Brooks fit into this? And have you heard anything about Japan?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I'm answering the question. Yeah. So BRICS, who are BRICS? Ethiopia, Americans, right. But really, yeah, we know them. But what are they? What are they doing? That's a great way to put it. I'll take that. They're just trying to destroy the US dollar. Why? Because it was weapons used for sanctioning. Not a great thing to have. Use the dollar as a weapon. 60% of countries around the world still trade US dollars in reserve. Why? Probably because of their bullying buddies like the World Bank and, of course, the International Monetary Fund.
Shrinking.
And it's shrinking. BRICS are the alternative. That's who BRICS are. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Ethiopia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. 2 countries, actually, not Saudi Arabia.
Maybe.
2 countries dropped out.
Saudi Arabia is still pending, and Argentina dropped out because their newly elected president was from the cabal and is wanting to, and is on the back of the microphone.
He must stop there.
Sorry.
So
So
the voice coming down from somewhere.
Argentina in December had an election, and the election elected a cabalist, and he has promised to disengage from BRICS and take Argentina onto the US dollar.
2 things.
Okay.
Argentina is a basket case. They got a inflation rate today of 250%.
Yeah. So I want to add to that. Well, again, in the interest of time, but Yami Amile, I give you that. He retracted. He was rescinded his membership of the BRICS before the first of the first 24 came around. They are not the interesting player here, though. The interesting player is actually Saudi Arabia. Yep. That is the one that is going to cause us world war or no world war. And it comes in the form of a nation that is not able to defend itself. What you don't understand is that the United Nations, there are 2 countries, there are 5 countries that can't go to war against each other. Out of the 195 countries in the world that are recognised as sovereign nations, only 193 of those are signatories to the United Nations. 2 are not. There are 2 nations that are not signatories to the United Nations, just so you are aware. Does anybody know who those 2 are? I always love this question. I get things like, like Namibia. It's like, I love it. Switzerland? Yeah, no, not Switzerland. Oh, hang on. Somebody said it. How did you even get that? And the other one? Somebody said it? Yeah, the Holy See. So the Holy See and the Islamic State of Palestine is not signatory. They are not signatories to the United Nations. However, what you need to know, I'm going to come back to BRICS now. This is really important for BRICS and important to what Kenton was saying about Argentina. What you've really got to understand here is that there are 5 nations that cannot go to war against each other, and they just happen to be the nations at the head of the United Nations that all have something called completely blank here, when you can veto, full veto power. Sorry, who said that? Very good. Sorry, they've got full veto power. Who are the 5 countries that got full veto power? China, Russia,
France.
yes. Thank you. Got the others. We got Great Britain, France, United States, China, Russia. These countries can't go to war against each other. But they tell us that Russia's going to attack America. They can't do it. Because as soon as they try it, one of them's going to veto. China will veto in a heartbeat. So it ends the whole thing in a heartbeat. Coming back to the BRICS group. The reason we've got the problem with BRICS that we've got is because Saudi Arabia controlled the oil roads of the Middle East. So the United States is desperate to stop the BRICS group. Why? Because they're after the US dollar. They're coming after it. One of the key points of being a member of the BRICS group is you have to denounce the US dollar. You're not to use it. Just don't use it. Well, that's a pretty damn big economy that they're building there in the BRICS group. And by the way, there is only 10 of them that are now signatories to it. And there's another 42 or 44 or so nations that are sitting in the wings, including Palestine, waiting for their little BRICS membership to come through. Now, if that happens, that is catastrophic for the US. So here's what's happened. What they did is on the 4th of January 2024, Saudi Arabia were meant to sign. Saudi Arabia, are they the biggest oil nation in the world? No, they are not. Who is the biggest oil nation in the world? Venezuela. Who said Venezuela? How do you even know that? Don't even answer that. Venezuela, correct. Who's the second biggest in the world?
Iran.
Would be Saudi
The United States.
Saudi Arabia would be number 2. Number 3? No. Close to where you probably come from, sir. No. A bit further north. Canada. Number 4? Iran. We've now got the 4 biggest oil nations in the world. Ready? We're going to go through them one more time. Venezuela. Who we say number 2? Saudi Arabia. Canada. Iran. Venezuela doesn't really produce any oil. I mean, they kind of do. And they're bigger by Saudi Arabia than by orders of magnitude. Do you know why they don't produce oil? Not because they're poor. Because their oil is offshore. They have an offshore oil system. Saudi Arabia has a land-based oil system. Even though they have less oil, it's easy to mine. It's very expensive to mine when it's offshore. It's very easy to mine when it's onshore. It's a pretty simple system. So think about it. Who are the US in this group going to go after? Who are they going to stop? They're desperate to stop this BRICS group from forming. Who are they going to go after? Canada? So I spoke about this long ago. I told this story, if anybody follows my channel, my Spotify channel, or my Instagram channel, way back before this whole fiasco began, I said keep your eyes fixed on one player in the game, and that's Iran. Why Iran, Mr. Go in the Hat? Can they attack Russia? No. Can they attack China? No. Will they attack Saudi Arabia? No. Are they going to attack Canada? No. There's only one left in the game, and that's Iran. Poor little Iran. So what you do is you create a skirmish between Israel and Palestine. You know in a heartbeat who's going to come to defend Palestine. It's going to be the Iranians, which is exactly what they did. And the moment they turned up, the United States sent warships into the Persian Gulf and said, well listen, tell you what, that was the strategy. It's a fabulous war game. Brilliant war game. They sent warships into the Persian Gulf, pointed the battleships at the oil fields of Iran, not at their military bases, at their oil fields. Why was that, Mr. Guy in the Hat? It's because had January the 4th happened and Saudi Arabia signed with the BRICS nations, what it would mean is we would not have a petrodollar. We would have a petro-yuan. Good for the Americans or not good? Very bad for the Americans. Very bad for the world, in fact, because the United States has been an oil-backed currency since 1974, when Henry Kissinger did a dirty little deal with the Saudis, just 3 years after Richard Nixon took the US off the gold standard on August the 15th, 1971. Gold was debased twice in that time, and the US dollar was flailing miserably by 74. No one wanted it. It sucked. They had to fake a moon landing many years earlier to stop the French asking for gold. It was a mess. They will do anything to protect this dollar. Why? Why will the US do anything to protect the dollar? What does it give them? Power. A lot of power. And they can also pay their own debts. I mean, they're the world reserve currency. They have no debt. They can just keep paying themselves and pay themselves off printing this stuff. I mean, all their debts are settled in US dollars. So, Saudi Arabia, January 4 did not sign. What happened? They said they were going to sign. They didn't sign. What do you reckon might have happened on Jan 4 if Saudi had signed? The Saudi Arabians had signed. We would be in full-scale war right now. The US would have declared war on Iran. Why, Mr. Guy in the Hat? Who are the biggest suppliers of oil to China? Russia?
Iran.
And Iran. Through the oil fields, through the roads of Pakistan. Can't attack China, you can't attack Russia. You need to take out your number one arch enemy, which is China, the biggest threat to the United States. You do not want them having the petro-yuan states. You do not want that. That is the end of your nation. Okay.
2 months ago, China bought Saudi oil with yuan. Saudis are playing it both ways.
Saudis are playing it both ways, but they haven't signed yet. Now, here's the problem. Right now, the number one non-discretionary expense of households is petrol, fuel, followed by rent, mortgage, followed by electricity, followed by gas. And here's what's going to happen. If this goes horribly wrong, the United States are going to start blowing up oil wells in Iran, which they're starting to do, by the way. Now, of course, there's a bunch of guys called Houthi rebels that live over in Yemen. They're going to come to their defence. This is all known. We all know this is the way. It's so boring. You can file your nails and go, well, these guys will come to the defence, they'll blow them up, they'll know how this is going to go. We all know how this plays. Second, that the Houthi rebels come to defend the oil fields, all of a sudden you see oil tankers in the Red Sea starting to be suddenly blown up, whether it's through sabotage or whether it really is Houthi rebels that are attacking them, we don't know. But one thing I can tell you is when you see oil tankers in the Red Sea getting blown up, what does that do to the price of oil? It pushes it up because the insurance premiums go up. It costs a lot of money to push oil through the Suez Canal. It costs a lot of money to insure against rebels and terrorists. So the price of oil goes up. The only other plausible possibility was to send the ships down the west coast of Africa around the Horn, and that is not a good idea because the oceans around the Horn are pretty damn big. Yeah? Not good. Your insurance premiums go through the roof. So what you can see here is Saudi Arabia sitting with their pen paws above the paper of the BRICS group. Now, they have not signed, and it's a very tense time. Now, we don't know what it's going to take for them to sign, but we know there's a lot of diplomacy going on to stop them signing. There's a lot of diplomacy. And I hope they don't sign, but then again, I hope they do. I hope they do because I am tired of the US dollar. But on that day, you will see us go to green light. You ask for your green light event, that's your green light event. Do you want to know what's going to cause the collapse of global derivatives markets? Probably Saudi Arabia signing with the BRICS nations, because it's the only thing the US has left. The only thing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of innocent people going to go down in this. But that's the way warfare goes.
From the back again, my information is that the Hamas and the Israel conflict is designed to start the Third World War.
Correct.
Whereas the Russians have a pact with Syria, so if Syria is attacked directly, the Russians are involved, that would be automatic Third World War. But the Russians are counselling Syria, Iran and the other Middle Eastern countries not to take the bait, not to enter into the war, because that's what the end game is. Meanwhile, the Yemenis have got two redundant supertankers parked ready to be scuttled in the Straits of Hormuz to completely block world oil trade if anything serious starts. So there's all sorts of other players in it.
Oh, this is no doubt, there's all sorts of bits and pieces, but the general idea is, of course, to protect the US dollar. In a nutshell, I think is really all I want to say here, is to protect the US dollar. I mean, that is really what this is about. And of course, if we do see the collapse of the US dollar, you're going to see full-scale war. That is how this plays. Because the last time we saw the US go into a gold standard, they dropped a couple of powerful weapons on a very, very quiet nation. And of course, we're in the middle of, or we're towards the end of the Second World War. So, yeah.
Just one more question. We're probably...
Yeah, sorry guys, I've taken up too much of your time.
Just one of the questions, is Bitcoin, in your opinion, a good store of wealth?
No. That's an easy one. There is no other store of wealth. You cannot store wealth in... Okay, let's try this a slightly different way. Great question. Does anybody invest in Bitcoin here, by the way? Any Bitcoin trades? It's doing well. Bitcoin is fabulous, incredible pump and dump technology. Bitcoin is not the same as gold. Gold, if you fail at gold, you will earn 10% compounding year on year. If you fail at Bitcoin, you're a loss. So they're different. Bitcoin appeared in 2009, just after the global financial crisis. No one knows who created it. It's a mystery. Gold has been around since the dawn of time. We know who created it. It came out of the ground. Gold has survived every currency reset in history. Bitcoin, how many resets has Bitcoin been through? Zero. Could it survive a reset? I couldn't tell you the answer to that. Hang on, sorry, how does it work? We've got a few people here.
Just one question.
It's got one question, yeah.
Go for another 5 minutes of questions.
Have you found this interesting?
Yeah.
It's the first time anybody's ever said that.
That's why Lee, we just kept going because everyone's focused. No one's sleeping.
Where do you buy some real gold, real silver without being scammed?
A bullion company. Go to a bullion company. My brand partners here in Adelaide, As Good As Gold, you go there. As Good As Gold, you will not buy anything less than investor grade gold from a bullion company. It's not possible.
You said early in the piece, you asked people whether they had the physical deed to the property. What would be the difference if they did?
This is a really good question. It's probably the hardest journey for me. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a commodity. Just so people understand my position, I'm a commodities guy first and foremost. I started researching monetary systems, and unfortunately when I researched monetary systems, I came across other systems like deeds and titles and other things that have value. This question on what does it mean to own a deed as against a title, is a very good question. The answer is we actually don't know. What we do know is that you bought a fee simple lease from a commercial bank, and that is not ownership. There are three types of fee simple leases: fee simple absolute, and fee simple conditional. None of them are any good. Some are better than others. The other problem I've got with all of this that I forgot to mention to you all, and it's probably worth noting, is the confiscation of property and deeds doesn't have to happen in the way I explained. And it probably will through the collapse of the derivatives markets, but there's another mechanism, and you need to be aware of it. The Section 25 of the Australian Constitution. Who knows what that talks about? Compulsory acquisition. Compulsory acquisition. What is that? A government can take what it wants, when it wants, provided two things are true. One, it has a reason. Two, it pays you for it. Your problem is that written into Section 25 is a new subsection something to do with, and this is a hard one, contamination. Contamination as a result of, begins with P, happened in 2020, pandemics. If we get a pandemic, if it turns out that your deed, this is why I'm telling you this, I don't think your deed can be taken as a collateralised asset. I don't think anybody here who has a deed or a title, and you can prove title, you have to have the deed. You can't just tell me you've got it. You can't just show me receipts that I paid off. Somebody asked me on the channel the other day, surely if we can't get our title, if I could just show the government, because under Section 25 of the Australian Constitution it says that if a government comes to your house and says, I need to see ownership of your property, if you cannot prove it, guess what happens? That's acquired by the government immediately. How do you prove ownership?
Possession.
Possession potentially, but you need proof of possession. Deed is a great one. You guys, deed.
A little bit further on that subject, I only recently learnt that the whole of South Australia, we're offered titles in fee simple, which is derived from the word feoffee. So it's a subset of the Lord's ownership of the land. And so Wakefield bought the entire title to South Australia, created the South Australian Company. As such, all land was owned by the South Australian Company has been subsold, but that primary asset class still exists. So for the last 30 years, anyone trading their property has been asked to send in their existing titles, and new titles will be issued. They're calling what they're issuing, they're calling a title, but it's now the other thing that's happened, they've changed the wording from in fee simple to fee simple. Now, I can't remember the full detail of that, but that has lessened its impact.
Correct.
And so basically, even if you held a deed to the land issued after sale in the early 1800s, 1836 here in South Australia, that deed is still only a subset. It's still in fee simple. It might be a deed, but it's in fee simple, and as such, it's part of a feoffee to the lord or the real owner.
Yeah.
Which has been transferred to the government.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great. So it looks like that's incredible, Kenton, incredible information. And in my own state of Victoria, we have something called the Land Titles Office of Victoria, which largely hasn't got a clue what it seems to be doing. I'll give you an example. A client of mine rang me desperately on Friday, and what's the day? Thursday. And I was on my way to do a talk in Melbourne, and they said, I've got some information about my land title I wanted to tell you. And they said, we rang up the Land Titles Office. So we rang up the commercial bank, and we did what you said, Mr. Guy in the Hat, and we asked them for our title. What do you think the commercial bank told them? We don't have one. Go talk to the Land Titles Office. So they went and talked to the Land Titles Office, and the Land Titles Office said, yeah, the commercial banks in Victoria don't have the titles anymore. And they said, well, so where's our title? And they said, well, you can't get it. And they said, well, we've actually got it. And he said, how? And they said, well, we've got, this is the Land Titles Office, Victoria. And they said, what colour is it? And they said, why does that matter? He said, it matters.
Yep.
What colour is it? And their one was like a pinky colour or something or other. And then he said to them, what symbols has it got on it? Can you see how this is insanity? And they said, you know, we paid this thing off over 25 years, and you're telling me it's coming down to the colour of the document. What symbols are on it? Is this legitimate? Is this legitimate? And the Land Titles Office acknowledged, they said, yes, that is a legitimate title. That one, if what they said, if what you're telling us is true, if what you're telling me is true, that would be a legitimate title. But it's a fee simple title, which begs the question, do you own it? Anyway.
No, you don't own it. So there's different colours to the pages. I've seen some green ones and some pink ones. I don't understand all the symbology, etc. But my understanding is that there is still that master control. But when I was helping someone in the Supreme Court with a repossession case, we were in contact with bank staff, and we have recordings of the bank staff admitting, and this was somebody who was having to go away from the phone to get senior advice all the time, admitting that when the document that is lodged for a loan application is lodged with the bank, the title documents that they might have, they digitise that, they photograph it and destroy the original.
Correct.
And so there is no original.
No, there's no original.
What they destroyed wasn't an original. But then they lend against, they securitise that and lend against that, and they can lend against that many, many times, which is why we have such inflation and why we have such a fraudulent money.
100%, and that is the collateralisation, exactly spot on what Kevin's just said, and that is what I said earlier about the collateralisation and securitisation of assets. Now, I want to go back to the point though, James, and your name, sir, what was your name?
Dennis.
You said, Dennis. Dennis, it's like when you're in a nightclub. Oh, my name's Dennis. You know, he always changes the last phone number, digit phone number. So Dennis and James have an interesting situation where they've got the deed, they're able to present the deed, but here's your problem, and this is why I think this new system coming in is designed to take everything. First of all, if you're in mortgage phase, you've lost it anyway, so it's over. If you have achieved deed or you have achieved title, what my fear is that eminent domain, if you go to the United States Constitution, Fifth Amendment, there is a clause called eminent domain. Eminent domain in the US stands for supreme ownership. Supreme ownership means the government owns everything. So our Australian Constitution, Section 25, was copied from the American Constitution's Fifth Amendment. They copied it. Basically word for word and changed a few things. So here's what I think could potentially happen. I think anybody in mortgage phase, yes, they're going to lose their titles. Indigenous people should be okay because, of course, we voted down the yes vote. We actually stupidly somehow voted no. What was wrong with it? That's a joke, of course. And which we actually saved in some way some of the assets from being taken by the corporation. But for people that have deeds, like Dennis and James, what could happen here is they could declare, they being the government, could declare a pandemic. Now, what happens under pandemic under Section 25, which seems to have has these modifications from somewhere or another, says that if your state, city, suburb is declared a contaminated zone, all property is acquired instantly under state of emergency. Under eminent domain, it can be done. By the way, you would be surprised how many times compulsory acquisition happens in Australia. You would be stunned how many times it happens. They do it for freeways, they do it for roads, they can do it for pandemics. They can walk into your house and say, prove you own this property. I don't have a title. Okay, then you can leave. Now your government will do the following, so you understand how this works. In a pandemic, as if that would ever happen. Pandemic. It's a sci-fi film, right? In a pandemic, government can say, South Australia is a contaminated zone. Yeah. and everything gets taken. Now here's the thing. Remember, they have two things they have to fulfill. They need a reason, and they need to pay for it. Tell me what you think a house is going to be worth in South Australia if it's just been declared a contaminated zone and every house has been acquired. What do you think your property is going to be worth at a guess? Probably zero. Your government is going to pay you market value, agreed market value. Well, that's zero, guys. No one's going to buy it. Plus, they just displaced the entire population of South Australia. You're going to have to find somewhere to pop you guys. You're not coming to Victoria. There's no way we're taking the South Australians in Victoria. So you can go the other way. You go to Western Australia, guys. We'll already be in our own form of dystopia probably by that stage, and it happens half an hour before you guys. So this is the world you live in. This is not a fake world. It's not a world of conspiracy. If anybody wants to go and read the 25th, Section 25 of the Australian Constitution or the 5th Amendment of the United States, be my guest. What you will see is that I am right. And by the way, 1933 April 5, United States actually actioned for the first time in US history compulsory acquisition, or what they call eminent domain. That was the confiscation of gold. That was all done under eminent domain. But here's what the United States government didn't realise. When they confiscated gold in 33, they found out something interesting. That not all gold could be confiscated. Why is that?
People buried it.
People buried it.
If it's made into a religious
Okay. Not a bad answer. Not a bad answer.
What was the answer?
Well, it wasn't that they buried it in the ground. That wasn't the answer. Although that is a good answer. Yes, bury your gold in the ground. Governments never. I'm going to quickly tell you one other story about gold.
If it's a religious icon, it can't be confiscated.
Okay, here's why they couldn't take it. Government, 1933. Remember what I said to you about compulsory acquisition. Remember what I said to you about eminent domain. What are the two things a government needs under confiscation rules? A reason, and they need to pay you for it. Guess what the government was paying for gold in 1933? No, it wasn't zero. $20.67 an ounce. Well, remember what I said, a government won't confiscate it if it can't afford to buy it. So what happens if somebody has a piece of gold that's particularly valuable? Let's say, for example, a collectible pre-1933 eagle or a franc or something like that. If I have a collectible coin that is worth thousands of US dollars, am I going to accept $20.67 for it? No, because the government's paying that for standard bullion coins. I don't have a standard bullion coin. I've got a rare doubloon from the Spanish Empire. This thing ain't getting traded. So, as it turns out, the government couldn't afford to buy them. It's just as simple as that. It was in breach of its own constitution. So then Franklin Roosevelt got his pen out and he went, okay, go look at this again. Get rid of anything that is collectible and fine artwork. So anything that was collectible, anything that was fine artwork, that includes rare cars, rare anything, cannot be confiscated because they can't afford it. They can't afford to buy it off you. That's the problem. So the government will set an amount, but if it's an amount that's ridiculous, they can't take it from you. That is under our own constitution. There's one final thing I want to leave you with, and then I'm going to beat myself off because I've taken up far too much time.
Tell us about your event.
Well, I'm just going to tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to tell you about my event, and then I promise I'll go because I've taken up so much time. But have you found it interesting? Yeah. All right. Okay. Good. That's all I was really hoping for. Okay. So there's no need to come to the talk on the 14th anyway. By the way, there is a whole part of this missing that I deliberately didn't tell you about because I'm kind of hoping that you'll come along. And bring your friends and bring your family, bring all those people going, oh, it's all bullshit, it's conspiracy theory. You know, just get them to come along too, right? So here's what I want to tell you about how to stand up to governments. You ready for this? I'm going to tell you this and I promise I'm going to beat myself up. Maybe I'll do that and then tell them that and then I'll go, right? Because I'm going to miss that. I'll say my welcome. 1933. I just want to quickly take you back to 1933 because I have researched this period of history so extensively and I found some incredible stories. The government confiscated gold, yes. You had how many days? From April 5 to May the 1st. Under Executive Order 6102, you had 26 days to get it right. Get your gold, go and get it and take it back to the bank. Would you have done that?
No.
Why? It's yours. But you're going to get charged with terrorism. Yeah, that's burial. There must have been a lot of shovels sold there, right? Okay, here's what happened. Most people fell for it. You remember this pandemic we had, right? Most people fell for it. No, would we say most? Is that a fair thing?
Yeah.
A few people fell for it, right?
Most people.
Okay, same happened in 33. Why do you think people fell for it? They were scared, they were afraid. They were worried that they would be charged with terrorism. It's not a good thing to get charged with on your resume when you go for a job. Oh, terrorism. Works if you want to work for the government, but not for anybody else. So here's what happened. Guess which industry, would I say this? Guess which industry in the population made the stand? I'll give you a clue. Look at Europe.
Farmers.
Shout it out.
Farmers.
The farmers. This is what really happened. You'll never read this on Wikipedia, which is, of course, a truth. Here's what happened. 1933, the farmers said no. And that's fine, because Roosevelt said, well, you know, you're getting charged with trading secrets of the Enemy Act of 1917, punishable by death. The farmers said, that's fine. We're not saying you can't take our gold. We're just saying that we have something called the Second Amendment. Does anyone know what that is? Guns. Come and get it. It's right there down the back of Bobby Sue. You're right. Come on. Step right in. Government never came.
Except the government's got much bigger guns these days.
And I feel
Well, this is interesting because the government, that's a great point. The government under Roosevelt and his administration said, that's okay. You don't want to give us the gold? Guess we're just going to have to bring in the big guns. Did the farmers flinch? No. Because governments are mostly about smoke and mirrors. They need you to fold. Farmers didn't fold. They just went, we're still here, you know, we're waiting. No one ever came. That's how it ended for the farmers. No one took the farmers' gold. They kept it because one thing they knew, if they gave up that gold, what would have happened to them? They would have been wiped out. No one came. The military didn't come. The government didn't come. The government went, I think Roosevelt went back and went, so that's how it ended. Anyway, guys, my event is, to finish, is March 14 at the Fulham Community Centre. Does anybody know Fulham? Yeah. Fulham Community Centre.
What time?
It's a great question. I think it kicks off at 7, but doors open at 6. There's going to be 4 of us talking. By the way, it only shows 2 of us in the picture. Does anyone know who this is?
Yeah, Damien Richardson.
Damien Richardson, very passionate guy. That's me, of course. And we also have 2 other guys, which are my brand partners, Daryl and Brian. Does anybody know Daryl and Brian Paynes from As Good as Gold? You probably know them. Those guys will be coming in and doing what we call a rapid fire question. Rather than giving a talk, they're going to get 10 rapid fire questions and they're going to answer them from a gold bullion dealer's perspective. So you're going to hear them for about half an hour. Damien's going to come on, he's going to talk all about what happened to him during COVID, of course, and the shrine and, you know, all that stuff. He also ran for a place in the Senate. Then we're going to have an interval, we're going to have something to drink, we're going to have something to eat, yada, yada, yada. And then I'm going to come on and I'm going to tell you the final chapter of this story, which you've never heard. I'm one of 3 people in the world that talk about it. It's in my new book, by the way, The Great Asset Shift. And it's incredibly important you know it, because once you know how the story ends, you'll know how to prepare for it. That's it. I'm taking up way too much time. I also just want to say thank you all for having me.